TVA activation, transversus abdominis, the deepest of the 4 abdominal muscles. We're going to begin to turn that on to begin strengthening the deep core. And TVA is responsible for stabilizing your spine and supporting alignment. Let's quickly review where it is to help us understand why it's such a big player in back health. So recall that, again, as the deepest muscle, it is the first muscle to cover and basically hug your organs. It attaches at the thoracolumbar fascia. Fancy words for the tissue into the vertebrae of your low back. So where my fingers are. So it attaches on both sides, and then it comes and it wraps around like a back brace, like a corset. It also attaches at these lower 6 ribs and the top of the pelvic bones called the iliac crest, and then where my fingers are in this inguinal ligament. So notice that if it attaches here to the ribs and it attaches on the pelvis, you can already see, follow my hands, where one of its primary roles is to keep the torso, the upper body, the rib cage, aligned over the lower half of the body, the pelvis and legs. So it helps keep alignment of the torso on top of the pelvis, and because it comes into those thoracolumbar fascia, basically you can think of it into the vertebrae, it helps keep neutral stability to your spine. So remember that the low back has a lordosis, a slight inward curve, and it's neutral. And what we don't want is for it to be too flexed or too extended. We want just right, Goldilocks, neutral spine. TVA helps maintain that neutral spine and alignment of ribs over pelvis when you do just the most basic activities. So you go to reach for something in the refrigerator, and TVA came on before you even reached, hopefully. You go to reach for a pen on the table. As you think to get that pen, TVA should ideally come on before you move, stabilize, and allows you a stable platform to move off of. So a properly functioning TVA, it 1, comes on before you move, and 2, it allows you to move off of, so that again we're not that scarecrow kind of collapsing into gravity. Instead we can reach and we can swing and we can high five. I'm high-fiving you. We can do all kinds of movements safely. So it's called mobile stability. You got to be able to have mobility and stability, and TVA is the key. It's going to protect your spine. So couple other points on TVA. Its job is to keep that neutral lumbar spine. Therefore, when we are strengthening, we don't want to flatten the back. We don't want to arch the back. We want to be in neutral. So I'm going to discuss that lying down, but I want you to keep recalling that its job is to keep neutral spine, safe spine, so you can move. If it hurts, when you go to practice TVA activation and you feel pain in your back, that's because you're trying too hard. So if you feel any back discomfort during any of the TVA exercises, it's because you've either moved in the exercise incorrectly, or most likely you're just trying too hard. So TVA, most of the fibers are what's called anterior lateral. So lateral means side, anterior means front. So right where my hands are is where the fibers of this muscle are to contract. So I'm sharing that because I want you to have this sense of here coming towards the midline. So if I'm gonna ask you to activate your core, you're gonna have this sense of pulling the sides towards the center and the center or the front in towards the back. So it's this midline hug or squeeze, but it's also, you kind of want to have that directionality, and you want to think of tightening against a punch or tightening against a poke. So if I was going to come up to you and poke your belly, you want to tighten against that, but in an inward direction. You don't want to push out. Like if I say, okay, protect against a punch, and you push your belly out and make it really hard, that is the opposite of the core. So we're not doing that. We're pulling in towards the backbone, towards the center line, towards midline, where like my hands are going here and in. And when you're standing, it's ideal to have the sense of lengthening when you come in and up. When you're lying down, it's enough just to have the sense of in towards center line and deep into the spine. As you activate the core, you're tightening these fibers. So now if you hit my fingers, they would hit against a protection. Okay, let's do it, but we're gonna do it lying down. Okay, so you're gonna make yourself comfortable lying on your back, and knees are bent up. Recall your anterior lateral fibers, and so you could find your lower ribs, top of the pelvis, put your hands between that. Somebody's talking to us. And you're gonna have where your fingers are, that sense of pulling in towards the belly button, towards midline, but also down, so it's in and towards the spine, towards midline. You want to imagine you're protecting against that poke of the belly, the lower belly, and you want and you want to have doggy love. I saw him coming, I'm so sorry. So you got that inward sense. Hi, big boy. You want to say hi to everyone? Okay, I'll pause the video and we'll start it without this gorgeous boy. But say hi. Say hi. Oh my goodness, I get licks. Oh. Okay. So you have the direction of towards the spine, in, towards midline, and tightening. But you do not want to flatten your back. So let's just do together what we don't want to do. Go ahead and roll like a pelvic tilt. Flatten your low back into the mat. Notice that these pelvic bones move, right? When we do a pelvic tilt and we push our low back through the power of the legs into the mat, this bone here, the big pelvic bone, moves. When we strengthen TVA, we do not want the pelvis to move. We do not want the spine to flatten. We want its natural neutral position, which is usually a slight gap in the low back. But you don't have to make that happen. All I ask is that you lie down, you bend your knees up, and just relax. That relaxed position is neutral. So from here, do not allow your pelvis to move. Do not allow your back to flatten. That's the key. That's how we're going to teach and strengthen transversus abdominis in neutral to help keep a neutral, safe spine. So you've got your direction. The best way to turn this muscle on is on an exhalation. When you're first learning it, best to do on an exhalation. But after a while, when you have this down, do it whenever you want, because it should be naturally on most of the time. Remember, if it hurts, you've worked too hard. So just soften, soften, soften. So I'm going to take a deep breath in, and when I breathe out, go ahead and breathe out through pursed lips, like you're breathing through a straw. You can then have that sense of tightening and pulling the abdomen towards your spine without movement, without moving the spine, without moving the pelvis. Some of you right now are going, I don't know if I'm moving, I don't know what I'm doing. So let's palpate or actually feel this muscle turn on. To do that, find the pelvic bones, the big bumps in the front of the pelvis, your ASIS. And I want you to move your fingers from that bone towards your belly button about a half an inch to an inch. So 3/4 of an inch would be perfect. So you're gonna find that bone and just come up and in about a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. Do that on both sides. Okay, so now when I breathe out and I pull my abdomen in and tighten against the punch, you can feel that muscle pop right against your fingers if you're doing it correctly. Recall that you didn't move, right? There's no tilting. It is so frequently taught incorrectly. Even in Pilates classes, they'll say, okay, we're going to strengthen the core, flatten your back and tighten your stomach. No, I want you to teach the core to work in its ideal role of a neutral spine. So don't flatten your back, but you can feel that muscle tighten with your fingers in about a half to 3/4 of an inch from these bones towards the belly button. So I'm going to breathe out through pursed lips while I pull the belly button towards the spine. Some people have, it helps to have the metaphor of imagine you are wearing a bikini and you want to draw the abdomen in, not suck in, right? It's not a pull in. You're not sucking in your belly to look thin, but you are deciding to just pull in to maybe zip up or button tight pants. But it's an active pull in, down if you're lying down, to button tight pants. Another metaphor that's been helpful for some, because this is often a difficult muscle to find in the body, is imagine I have an ice cube and I'm holding an ice cube over your bare skin and you're already cold and it's about to drip on you. What would your reaction be? It would be to pull away from the ice, to pull down. So just a couple things. You're trying to pull in to put on tight pants or bikini. You are pulling away from an ice cube. But as you pull in, you want to have that sense of tightening or strengthening against a poke. And as you do all of that, you do not want to flatten your back. Some people actually need to put their hand back here in the small of their back and make sure that when they turn on their core, that they're not pushing against their back. Other people, it's just enough to put your hands on the pelvic bone. And you can I can have fingers on my pelvis and still have my thumb where I can feel the muscle. And then so when I turn that on, I don't want to feel the pelvis move or roll. I know that that's a lot of words, but again, it's so often performed incorrectly with people flattening their back. As we progress in transversus abdominal strengthening, we're going to begin to lift legs and even lift both legs up. If I lift both legs up, if I lift without any core on and I just lift both of my legs, my back would naturally arch. But what's the job of TVA? It's to keep neutral spine. So down the line, we're going to strengthen the core, and I'm going to teach you to lift one leg and then lift the other without allowing that arch. but with also not having to flatten to do it, so that we can really, in an advanced way, keep the spine in neutral. So a couple last points. You're going to activate your transversus abdominis, pull it in and tighten, and I invite you to hold that for 10 seconds. As you're holding that, you want to, so I'm going to activate my core, there it is. Now, bring your attention, your awareness, your thoughts to your upper back, the space between your shoulder blades, and see if you can soften that as you keep your abdomen, your deep core tight. Now, from here, see if you can soften your throat. And now, come back to your abdomen, your core, turn on your core. Good. Now relax your neck. Come back, make sure you're still tight. Relax your shoulders. Good, come back, make sure you're still tight. Relax your jaw. Good, come back and make sure you're still tight. And now breathe comfortably. Can you breathe in deep and still keep your core tight? So for 10 seconds, it's best that you first activate your core. You pull in and you tighten, you feel it. Next thing, bring your attention to your breath. Your diaphragm is going to actually push against the TVA. So as soon as you go to breathe comfortably, many of you are going to lose your TVA, your deep core activation at first, because your breath pushes against it. You're not used to controlling that, and it softens. So that's okay. Start over, activate your core, turn it on, pull it in, tighten. Now try to keep that tight and breathe naturally. Good. Come back. But when I say come back, you're going to bring your attention, awareness, your thoughts back to that deep core. Good. And then you're going to check between your shoulder blades. Is that soft? Come back, retighten. A lot of you, as soon as you leave this area, it's going to let go. So you can come back and go, oh, I only let go a little, so mine's down right now, so it's going to stay tight. And then I can check my neck, and can I soften my neck and my jaw, and can I keep this tight the whole time? You're softening other parts of your body. In particular, you want to soften your upper body, particularly women, your upper traps. We tend to use this area as our core. Something I forgot to mention is that transversus abdominis often is kind of knocked offline with back injuries, with pregnancies. So a lot of times the TVA is, think of a offline, like you can't connect to your internet. TVA is often offline, again, after you've hurt your back or after you've been pregnant. And you have to kind of reconnect that connection. You have to reactivate that muscle that's been either stretched out or turned off. So you want to reconnect the TVA that's been perhaps not online for quite a while. And that's why the upper body often assumes the role for TVA. A lot of people who struggle with neck pain have weak cores. And a lot of people who take Pilates classes have noticed injured necks from that, because there's a misuse of the upper body for that TVA. So as you're activating and holding that 10 seconds and tightening a little bit more if you can during that 10 seconds, you're trying to soften and train the body that this is not your core. Okay? So try not to get frustrated. Oftentimes when you go to soften your neck, the belly releases. That will change over time. You'll get it. You'll be able to do all of it. And then we'll advance the TVA to squeezing a block and lifting a leg, and then even lifting 2 legs. So first is to master that 10-second contraction while softening the upper body, while breathing comfortably. And you want to repeat that 10 to 20 times. So 10 seconds, 10 reps, 10 seconds, 20 reps, one time a day, but regularly. And then you can practice it in sitting and standing. So just recall that when you do sit and stand and you pull in towards the spine, towards the backbone, you want to have that sense of growing tall. That is so essential for proper TVA activation against gravity. I know this is a lot of information, but it is the core of back health. It is the core of neck health. It is the core of shoulder stability. It is literally the core of doityourselfpt.com. So I might have missed something, and there'll be an addendum. All right, good luck.